Printing in Excel, as basic as it may seem, is much more than just pressing print. This strategy rarely works in the way you intend it to, and only in the case of very simple and small sheets. We can see how the sheet in this example will look after printing by using the keyboard shortcut Ctrl-P, or by going to File and then clicking Print. My sheet has been divided by Excel over 8 pages. We can preview the other pages by clicking on the arrows or by pressing the page up or page down buttons on the keyboard. For example, this is what page 4 will look like. It isn't difficult to predict what the reaction of the person on the receiving end of this printed document would be. In my career, I've seen documents printed like this in a few different companies, and they're usually joined together with tape. To prepare a file for printing, click on the Page Break Preview. The continuous and dotted blue lines show us how the worksheet will be divided once printed. To see the entire document, zoom out by clicking on the minus sign. The areas that will be printed have a white background. The grey areas won't be printed, because the cells in this area are empty. We'll adjust the horizontal dotted blue line by dragging it to a continuous blue line. Drag it by left-clicking and holding. Now do the same thing with the vertical dotted line. This is the print area. By dragging the two continuous lines above row 1 and to the left of column A, we set the boundaries of the print area. Now we have limited the print area, so empty column A and the first 3 blank rows won't take up any unnecessary space. The sheet now fits on just 2 pages. Dividing a document into pages shouldn't just be simple, but also sensible. It's important to present the table in the best way. This one presents the data from 6 years, which has been divided into quarters. The most appropriate division of data like this is to put 3 years on each page. If we were to print one quarter on one page and the other quarters on another page, it would make the printout hard to read. If we now preview what the printout would look like, it seems the second page's row headers are missing. Row and column headers can be repeated on all pages of the document. To find this option, select the Page Layout tab and click Print Titles. Then, under the Sheets tab, click on Columns to repeat at left, then click on any cell in column B and hit Enter. Now the second page of our printout will start with the names of the brands in column B. Let's go to the printout view and click on the arrow to view the second page. The next step is to reduce the margins. We can solve this by choosing standard narrow margins. The more space there is on the page for our table, the bigger the font, which makes using the document much easier. If none of the standard margin settings are suitable for our needs, click Page Setup, and then under the Margins tab it's possible to set customized margins. If you want to set very narrow margins, it's worth checking to see whether the printer is able to print that close to the edge of the page beforehand. We'll now create an alternative page setup and add a header and a footer to the document. Let's suppose we've got very good eyesight, and we want to print this table on one horizontal page. Changing the orientation is easy and possible by clicking the orientation commands. But to access all the changes we want to make, click Page Setup. Under the Page tab, we can change the orientation to landscape, choose the Fit To option, and enter the number 1 in the Pages Wide By and Tall boxes. In some cases, Excel might not be able to find a page break using the values we put in the boxes, which would mean the only way is to divide the pages manually by dragging the division lines shown in the Page Break preview. Under the tab Header Footer, select Header. In some cases, it might be useful to print the path to the folder where the file is located and the file name of the printed document to make it easier to find the file later on. In which case, a good place to put it would be the header. At the bottom, in the footer, it's possible to add page numbers. In our case, it's not useful, but for documents with many pages, it could be. After pressing the custom header or custom footer buttons, we are confronted with even more options, including the option of entering a header or a footer from the keyboard. We can add a company name and logo, for example. A formatted document should look like this. To return to the normal sheet view, select Normal. It's good practice in many corporations for every document to be formatted for printing before it's emailed, so it doesn't have to be done by every recipient if they decide to print it. It's possible to print many sheets in one go. Simply choose all the sheets you want to print using the Shift key for choosing a consecutive sequence of sheets, or the control key for individually selecting the sheets. Then print. Unfortunately, it's not possible to format many sheets and print them simultaneously. The notice, "Think before printing, please consider the environment before printing," encourages people to print only when it's really necessary. It's estimated that over 50% of pages printed are never looked at. In many companies, employees are encouraged not to print presentations and other documents for all meeting attendees, but instead to send them to everyone before the meeting. Also, printing for yourself because you prefer to read from paper rather than from a screen is considered unethical. Thank you for watching Lesson 5 of the Excel for Beginners course. I recommend you watch all the lessons from the Excel for Beginners and Advanced Excel courses, and then check your skills by doing the Excel job interview tests, which are at the end of the Advanced Excel course. The next lesson is Find and Replace.